an individual whose name was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and his son, hidden in the cave 13 years so as to negate the corporeal influence of what we call the desire to receive for oneself alone, so as to achieve an elevation where they would come to the realization that there is only one thing that this world is going to have to learn, and learn real quick, and that is the art of sharing. Sharing for the sake of sharing, rather than for the sake of receiving. And there the basic text for Kabbalah came into existence, revealed by Moses himself and Elijah the prophet, our first two space astronauts. For those of you familiar with the Old Testament, it's very clear that space vehicles were known at that time. And so if we're getting any messages from out there, well, thank you, Elijah, but I hope you're coming a little loud and strong than you are at the present time.
Turn it up a little bit. Yes, the Bible, as we read it now, we've gone into that on many occasions here on this program, is quite replete with descriptions of extraterrestrials and their craft, particularly the Old Testament, particularly Genesis. It's quite a wonder whenever you start getting down into the etymology of those words. And I see that in the writings that you have done in these marvelous books of yours, the Kabbalah Connection, the Wheels of the Soul, and then you explain the Kabbalah for the layman, there is a connection in what you're teaching in these books and what we have learned from a lot of other different sources, which I find quite fascinating.
It's all coming together today. The interest, the fact that you have, and I've been told, a very popular program, there is a change. A great number of people.
I think so, and the change is there. 5 years, 10 years ago, the show wouldn't have happened. In fact, 5-6 years ago when we started, we thought we had two chances, slim and none. But it has done very well because of the material. But it is very encouraging for me to sit here and see a rabbi or a clergy of any kind talk to me about astral projection, the astral body, reincarnation, extraterrestrial life and intelligence, and have that rooted in a religious belief. I find it fascinating, and I think you will tonight. On Open Mind, my guest is Dr. Philip S. Berg, and we'll be back in just a moment. The Kabbalah with Dr. Philip S. Berg, who is one of the world's foremost authorities on this ancient bit of teaching which sounds so very, very modern. We talk about Atlantis, in fact, in there. Was there an Atlantis, Dr. Berg?
Well, if I was there or not, I kind of will pass that question. But from the description of the Zohar, the basic text of Kabbalah, seems to indicate that there is a nation living underwater presently. That was witnessed by several of the students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Now, that's what it says. That these people who are the people of Atlantis are those, that civilization, that most advanced civilization of the Tower of Babel. When we read in Genesis, they were going to build this 7,000-story structure, and we still haven't, I think, achieved anything more than maybe 110 stories. And without getting into the details of why these people were dispersed, but nevertheless they wound up underwater. And how do these students even reach them? You know, we think that it's only fish that can live underwater, but nevertheless there is a civilization and there is an art on how people can live underwater. So that's where Atlantis is presently.
In the Atlantic? In the Atlantic. The Bermuda Triangle, is that a part of it?
I kind of believe it is. There is no, I can't say for sure just where it is in the Atlantic, and since the Bermuda Triangle seems to have this this unnatural or paranormal phenomena, I would kind of myself connect Atlantis with the Bermuda Triangle.
So why would a civilization be existing underwater like that on a planet such as this? They like it better there?
No, but if we get into the energy intelligence of water, and that's one of the things we're trying to establish, that when we relate to water or relate to any inanimate object from a Kabbalistic point of view, the atom and all structure, all molecular structure, has an energy intelligence, a desire of one kind or another. Now, water has a desire, an energy intelligence of sharing. That's why it seeks its own level. It goes against gravity. And inasmuch as these people were involved with a negative activity of the desire to receive for oneself alone, that's really what the Tower of Babel was all about. Greed, corruption, for oneself alone. They were immersed within the energy intelligence of water, which is the desire to share. And so convert these people from their desire to receive for oneself alone to an activity of sharing, which is principally the teachings of the Kabbalah for all mankind. That's got to come one day or another. And so we find these people within the water underneath.
Sharing the underwater life.
That's right. Getting accustomed to sharing.
And doing some strange things to some of the people who live above the water and get in their areas from time to time. You speak very strongly about the reality of reincarnation in your books as a part of the Kabbalic teaching. How did that great feeling of the men of philosophy who certainly were given information that was far beyond their conscious ability to have it, who wrote those great books of the Bible that we accept and this, how did reincarnation get out of the mainstream of thinking, both in the Jewish and in the Christian way of life? Wasn't always that way, I don't think.
Oh, by all means. But if I might, Bill, if I can have my wife Karen field that question, she loves that one. And
all right, Karen, get right on. Let me turn you on over there.
Hi. First of all, I don't believe that it is out of the mainstream. I think it perhaps is out of the main field of knowledge for most people. And therefore, as in any religious practice, they don't want to accept or acknowledge something that might cause a little ripple, in their way of thinking. As far as to see reincarnation as an existing principle, 600,000 people left Egypt and went into the desert. And there was war between themselves. And there was many, many different things. People died and were born again. However, the end result was that 600,000 people entered the land of Israel. 24,000 people were killed during an episode in the Bible. 2,000 years at the time of the destruction of the temple, 24,000 people were destroyed in a plague, very much like the plague that killed them in the Bible. And what I'm saying is that reincarnation as a process is a process to all of us. And the reason that a lot of the religious sects refuse to accept it as an existing truth is simply because they can't explain it.
But I sometimes feel that one of the reasons I don't want to accept it is because that then gives you a reason to look at something with greater authority than the authority of the structured religious organization.
I think religion has a problem that they're going to have to face up to, and that is the Decalogue. We read in the third commandment where God will visit the sins of the forefathers upon the children and grandchildren. And every thinking individual is going to ask one basic question. Why am I responsible for the sins of my fathers or forefathers? And many have considered that to be an unfair doctrine within the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments. And so this great sage, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who obviously wasn't inclined to restrict some of the comments he made, and said that that would be unfair, and we could not understand the Ten Commandments as including that kind of a doctrine. And therefore he goes on to interpret that we are not discussing the sins of the forefathers. We are considering our own sins. In other words, in a prior incarnation, that was what I did wrong. And when someone is born maimed, blind, he's paying not for the sins of his forefathers or a prior generation. He is paying for his own sins when he himself, in a prior incarnation, committed those offenses, and the law of cause and effect applies both on a metaphysical and a physical level. And there we have the total doctrine of reincarnation. And how this misinformation or corruption ever came about is really even beyond me.
It certainly has come about. There are some fascinating success stories to be told of people who have all kinds of physical ailments, who once they find out about their previous lives, which can be done, and find out what it was that they did.